I'm sure that most of you by now have already seen Thor Love and Thunder, or you've heard people talk about it enough already, so just letting you know, I'm going to be talking about that in this video, if you couldn't tell by the title, of course, though I'm not going to be giving a review on it. I feel like enough people have kind of done that already. So instead, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that I think they could have done based on the ideas that they had in the film. But I'll give a quick idea on what I felt about it. I thought, yeah, of course, what other people said as well. The comedy undercuts the drama. A lot of the jokes could have possibly been funny, but they just drive it into you so much that it just becomes entirely unfunny. The screaming goats, like, could have been a little bit funny at first, but then that just keeps on coming back around, and it's kind of ridiculous with it. There's a lot of setups that are not really paid off well. There's a lot of payoffs without any setups. That's pretty much the gist of it. And honestly, this feels like the whole time they're trying to insult Thor and what he's built up to this point, and they just kind of don't really care. It's a self-contained, bizarre story that they did here, but there was potential for some other ideas. So I'm going to be making a couple of videos where I explore a couple of these little ideas and see where they could go. Now, some people have already come up with these ideas as well, but I'm going to try to give my little take on how that would go, with my version being a little bit different than some of theirs with their ideas. So I'm going to start with this first little video. So for this first idea, this has to do with Gore, because in the first scene of Thor Love and Thunder, you start with the character of Gore, the God Butcher, but before he becomes the God Butcher. And people mostly are on board with that first scene, for the most part. There's a little bit of issues with it, but for the most part, him and his character are pretty, like, wow, we want to see what happens with him. But then they kind of fudge him up throughout the full film, where he's pretty much different characters throughout the entire movie. Like, we see him as this guy who's been betrayed by his gods. They put all their faith into him. Most of the people are all dead or just gone. His daughter just recently died. They devoted their entire faith to him, and the god is a total piece of shit douchebag. And then the god had just killed the previous God Butcher, and his sword is right there and tells him this. And then, well, Gore has that sword teleport to his hand, and he kills that god, and then he's gonna go kill all the gods. And then when you see him next, he's kind of quippy with Thor, doesn't really kill him right away, but then he kidnaps the children, the Asgardian children, and he expects Thor to be able to save them. He's counting on him as a god and protector to go save these kids, when he has this idea that gods all kind of suck. So that's a huge contradiction. And then later, he's like really trying to scare the Asgardian children, which is also kind of a weird move, because you'd think he has some type of sentimentality with children, being that he had a daughter that had died very recently, and that there'd be something there, but now he's acting kind of weird, and he just seems to be different in a lot of his scenes. But Gore as a character is a great idea, and I feel like a lot of people think too that he should have had his own movie, or at least be part of another movie. So what I think that they could have done is have a Thor movie, Thor 4, being where you follow Gore and his storyline with his people and their suffering, whatever they're dealing with. And at the same time, you can have Thor going with the Guardians of the Galaxy and dealing with some of their stuff. They'll each be doing their own half. They do not meet in this movie at all. And toward the end, you'll see some of the connective threads with Gore and Thor, and how they'll probably run into each other by the next movie, by Thor 5 or something. So you can have like an actual connecting thread that goes into the next Thor movie. I think that would be an interesting way to go. And in Thor Love and Thunder, you have Jane Foster, who has cancer, and then she's trying to find a way to save herself, and she just kind of gets Mjolnir that just magically comes together, and she's able to lift it and has the power of Thor and whatever. It's just kind of lazily done, honestly. I think it would have been interesting having Thor. I mean, we all wanted to see Thor actually do stuff with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy are in the movie for like less than 10 minutes, and then they're gone for the rest of it. And kind of a huge wasted opportunity there. They were trying to present it like Thor got bored of doing the things with them and just wants to get called to battle on occasion, and just doesn't really care about saving people. It's done kind of in an odd way. But I think it'd be interesting if you have Jane, of whom is currently dying, of which I've heard other people suggest that instead of it being cancer, it could be something caused from the ether, or the ether causing her to have some kind of cancer that is killing her. And she could be going along with them as well. I think that would be interesting. She is a scientist of some kind. She could be trying to find different technological means, different medical stuff that she can bring back to Earth, or maybe she's also trying to rebuild Mjolnir so that it can be wielded again by somebody, so that she could be doing some type of good before she dies. Thor could also be trying to find some ways to save her. His goal could be trying to save Jane while she's trying to develop technology and get the hammer back together. And the Guardians are just doing their thing where they're trying to get money and save people and whatever, doing that together. I think that could be an interesting dynamic with the story. And then, you have Gore and his stuff happen at the end. And, at the end, it's like, okay, he's going to go after some of the gods here. And with all of that happening throughout the movie, maybe their antagonist is Zeus, or it could be they had Zeus in this one, and he seemed to be, Thor thought quite a bit less of him in this film, and he used to look up to him when he was younger. There could be some conflict with the other gods in this version of the movie instead, or something else. It may be, I don't even know if there would be a main antagonist for them in this film. There could just be regular struggles that they're trying to go through. But the point would be that toward the end of the Thor storyline with this, maybe Jane is about to die, but before she does, she's trying to do something heroic to save somebody. And that's, she's got the hammer built, but it was like waiting for the right type of moment or something to activate it, and her courage or something you could do here. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but I feel like they literally have love as like practically a tool in a lot of this stuff anyway. So she's got all the science stuff right, and it was just waiting for the right moral capacity to activate the magic of Mjolnir again, the power of Thor, to go through her. And then while she's wielding the hammer, while she's got this power access to her, she won't die. And you can end the movie where, where Thor and Jane are trying to, go on their own little adventure, trying to find a way to fully make her, live without having to be attached to the power of Thor or whatever, because maybe there's some moral confliction there, or maybe, she can live longer. It can prolong her death, and she can live for a little while longer than she would have without it, but there could still be a time limit there. You can create some other type of stakes or drama going into the next film that way. And again, have it set up where Gore goes through his stuff, and at the end, maybe he either kills his god at the end of that film, or he's set out. I would think it would make sense in his storyline to have it where he ends up fighting his god at the end of it and defeating him, and then sets his sight on the other gods, but with some other type of reason. Hopefully not just, well, there's other gods around, so I'm going to go and kill them. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that idea. I think having Jane with Thor and the Guardians and doing something with Mjolnir with that, I feel like there'd be more of a connective thread with the ideas that they had in Thor Love and Thunder. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll do another idea sometime in the future, and have a good one.